So if you don't already know the name Terrell Fletcher, you will and certainly should. This NFL pro turned no-holds-barred cultural consultant and commentator, leadership expert, and community mobilizer is on a mission to give the disenfranchised a voice that's actually heard and advocate why and how everyone in the workplaces, homes, and sports programs across the United States can live a community-centric life. One that's driven by the kind of transformation and action that makes organizations, schools, homes, streets, cities, and towns better to the extent that the impact can be felt on a national scale. Terrell doesn't just talk the talk, but he walks the walk. His own calling commenced in April of 2005 when, having realized a dream of his own through which he could utilize innate gifts, he was drafted into the NFL by the San Diego Chargers. There he enjoyed a successful 8-year career with the team. During this period, Fletcher became a vital and extremely active part of the community, serving as the chairman and spokesperson for Junior Achievement, volunteering with San Diego County Adoptions, and regularly making meals to feed San Diego's homeless, among other of his charitable and philanthropic endeavors. Never one to shy away from tackling a challenge, and with his NFL activist athlete years now behind him, today Terrell remains a man of action, a bold community leader, organizer, and compassionate advocate for those in our society who are marginalized and need an assist to help their proverbial voices be heard. So today I'm thrilled to connect with Terrell for some of his fresh and unique insights, including leadership lessons he learned on the gridiron, and how we can all create a legacy through leadership. Hello, Terrell.
Mason, hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for being with us today. So I'll just get started here with my first question. So you're known to be a change agent who spends a great deal of time advocating for others. Why have you opted to take on such a lofty and presumably difficult role?
Well, I tell you what, Mason, one, it was something that was instilled in me from my parents. Long before they taught me to play football, they taught me to give back to my neighborhood and my community and to try to help make the world a better place when I'm taken away from it. So it's a part of who I am, and I really enjoy and don't necessarily see it as a challenge. I really enjoy helping people realize their goals and their dreams, and I really feel like it's God's calling on my life to do so.
Yeah, that's really wonderful to hear. I know for myself, my parents do instill those beliefs in me as well, so I can totally relate. And I do know that you were the second of 5 children. Has that had any impact in regards to how you live your life and how you pursue leadership?
Yes. When you're any number of 5 children, you learn really fast, Mason, that life is about teamwork. Life is about knowing how to rise to the occasion and be a leader at times, but also knowing when to have discernment and follow. Because the best leaders also know when they have to humble themselves and follow as well. So I am very grateful and proud to be one of 5 children, the second, as you mentioned. But I learned a ton of lessons in the process of it. My first leadership lessons were not taught in the classroom to me. They were taught in my household.
Yeah, that's really wonderful to hear. I know that those beliefs were instilled at such a young age, and it's really paid off in the long run as you've realized so much success. What would you say to help listeners dig deep and wake up their dreams, but in a way that allows them to channel their knowledge and efforts into the kind of action that betters the community around them, just like you have done?
Well, I would tell everyone to make sure that they identify what the dream is first. You know, we live in a world where we're so swayed by what we see on television and what every celebrity is doing. And the reality of it is that that's not necessarily what you as an individual are called to do. So it's important for you to realize who you are, what you're good at, what your core competencies are, what your natural gift sets are, what your true passions are. And don't mimic, a celebrity or athlete who may have a different set of gifts than you may have. I think that's the first thing to waking up your dream, is realizing what your dream is. And I think the second thing is to align yourself with people that believe in your dream as much as you do. Unfortunately, too often we line ourselves up with people that can steer us in the wrong direction, pull us away from it, maybe even think that we're dreaming too big. But if you can put yourself around people that can support what you're going after, whether it's the dream to go to college or the dream to be an entrepreneur one day, or even like you, the dream to be an amazing announcer and TV host one day, to have those people around you that can support it and root for it and tell you to go get it matters a lot. So those are the first two things that I would say to wake up your dream. Know what the dream is and find people that can help support it.
Yeah, I really love that advice. I know that in society, like you said, people are really often swayed by other people's opinions and limitations that are placed on them regarding their dreams. I know it's really hard for some people to achieve their dreams. And so on that note, in sports and in life, how important do you feel it is for people to push past those perceived limitations?
It's vital. It's vital. Once you start to believe in yourself, Mason, then the sky is the limit. But you have to believe beyond limitations. Everything that you want, everything that a person desires is actually right beyond their limitations. So having that type of, like I said, that support group around you that can play like a coach or cheerleaders for you that can push you past your limits is critically important. But also having the mindset that says I can go one step further. I can do one more thing to help myself, to help the society I live in, to help my business, to help me get toward my goal. Having that mindset is critical as well. So we all have a threshold where we have gone as far as we can go. The reality of it is that there is a point where it's over. But the reality also is that most of us never get to it. It's so far out. We have so much space to fill between where we are now and where we want to go. And you just need people to keep pushing you toward that ultimate goal. And with a little bit of time, a little bit of hard work, a few lucky breaks here and there, you can wake up your dream. All of us can.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's some really great advice. I feel like everyone just needs to express themselves, and they need to work for what they want and get past those limitations. They just really got to keep the faith. So let's shift over to leadership now. In your time in the NFL, who is the best leader you played with or for, and why do you regard this person as the best?
Oh, that's a great question. The best leader I played with was Junior Seau, hands down. And Junior was a master motivator, but because he was able to actually go out and do what he challenged us to do, he also led by example. So he didn't just say it verbally to us. He also went out and led by example. He was also a guy that knew how to be like one of the guys. I think there are a couple of good traits that Junior showed. One, he was a motivator. He made us believe we could play beyond our limits. Two, he led by example. He went out and performed, and he did it in his own right. But also the third thing is that Junior was he never, even though he was the superstar on our team, never acted like it. He always acted like he was one of the guys. He reminded us, hey, I put my pants on one leg at a time just like you. When I leave practice, I get tired just like you. I have a family just like you guys. And he showed us that what he was doing, even though it may seem like it's superhuman, it wasn't. He was a guy just like all of us. And that motivated us even more to say, hey, this is a guy just like us that's going out giving his all the time. I can too. So Junior was probably the best leader I played with, hands down.
Yeah, and I think that's really great of him, especially because he was such a great athlete, and in that he was able to relate to everyone else so well. It's just really a great sign of motivation and leadership skills. So moving on forward now to your career, what did you take away from 8 years in the NFL, an ultimate team sport that can really inspire leadership qualities?
We'd be here all day if I talked to you about everything I took away from the NFL. But just to give you a few leadership tips that I took away. Here's the first thing: is that a team means more than you, but it cannot be a team without you. okay? It takes more than you to make a team, but it cannot be a team without you. And that's important for every member of a team and every leader to understand. They're not bigger than the whole, but the whole needs your best all the time in order for the whole to be at its best. And so that drove me to be a good individual. And as a pastor of a church, as a business owner, it also drives me to be the best at those parts of my life as well, because the team is not as good as it can be if I'm a slacker, or if I'm lazy, if I'm not as prompt and be an example that I want the guys on the team to be. So it works both ways, that it needs me to be at my best, but at the same time, it also takes the humility to realize that even at my best, I can't do it alone. We need other good, competent people to make the journey fun, to make the journey be filled with laughter, but also to get the job done the right way. We need other competent people to pull it off. So a good leader can recognize his or her responsibility to the organization, but also a good leader is humble enough to realize that they are not the only person that has a contribution to make. So everyone has to be treated fairly and equally with respect, and everyone's contribution has to be acknowledged and honored. I took those two things away from the National Football League, as well as a few scars on my body. I have a couple of those as well.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I do completely agree. Being an athlete myself, I know that on teams that I've previously been on, there are players who have the high ego and want to do everything themselves, but it's really important, I think, to know that there are other players on your team who need to make the contribution in order to have winning seasons, because I feel like the winning is what makes it fun. Everyone talks about how it's important for everyone to have fun and like it to be just a good season overall, but I feel like winning is what makes athletics fun. And if everyone's not contributing to the team in the best way they can, then I feel like that aspect kind of gets lost. And on that note,
Now, Mason,
yes.
I didn't realize you were an athlete. I like you even that much more now. I want you to know that.
Thank you. Yeah, I play the soccer and basketball.
Good for you.
Thank you. So now on that note, you did have some good seasons and a few difficult ones throughout your career. So what are some lessons you learned during those difficult seasons?
I learned a couple of great lessons, and one of the lessons, Mason, that I'll never forget is during the worst season of my NFL career, we went 1-16 one year, and I picked up some of the greatest relationships and friendships of my NFL tenure during that time. Some of my closest NFL buddies that I still stay in contact with today was built out of that. And the lesson that I learned in it is that wins and losses are not everything. Wins and losses are not everything. It's the people that make life worth living, not wins and losses. It's the friendships. It is the connections, the relationships that you build along this journey called life that really matter. And I learned that during that season. And I also learned something that's valuable as well, is that failure doesn't have to be for nothing. It's also a part of your internal navigation system. When something doesn't work, when doesn't happen the way you planned it, it's just life telling you that that's not the direction you should go. And just like if you were in a car and pulled up to a dead end, there's no use of getting too huffy and puffy. Just back out and head a different direction, because obviously that's not the correct direction. So if we are trying to build and foster successes and we measure them along certain lines, then when we fall or when we fail, it doesn't have to always be a bad thing. You know, sometimes it's life's way of telling you that there's more to this life than the wins and losses, or sometimes it's life's way of saying, hey, try it another way. You'll get to your direction in a better and more healthy way.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. That's just really helpful for everyone, and I especially think that in those losing seasons, and maybe they're considered failures to some, I feel like a leader's qualities really do show, because it's in those times that leaders really need to step up and keep the positive mentality for your team. Even in that 1-16 season that you guys did have, I'm sure there were players that were down, and I'm sure leaders like yourself really tried to pick those players up and keep the mentality alive for us, the fans here in San Diego, and for just the players who are playing in the games, because I know it's difficult when you're having those losing seasons. So I think it's really critical to keep up that mentality. And on that note, how valuable is a leader's consistency toward encouraging those that follow him or her? And are there any other critical traits or behaviors a leader must have?
Well, consistency is a valuable trait. To be not too high or not too low, that's why we consider you a leader. When we consider a person a leader, we usually consider them that because they're able to pick people up when they're low. And when people are way too high, they're able to bring them back down to earth in a loving way that helps the whole. So consistency is important. People that follow you will watch the way you respond to success. They'll watch the way you respond to failure, and it is critically important that they see a consistent model one way or the other. When we were going through our toughest season, it was hard on all of us that considered ourselves leaders. It was difficult. It was a difficult season for everyone, but we realized that there was something else happening that we had to protect. It wasn't just the wins and losses, because we obviously couldn't do much about that, but we had to keep the team morale in place. We had to keep guys excited about coming to work every day. We had to remind guys that, hey, it's not the worst thing in the world. We're going to get out. We're going to push. We're going to try hard. We had a lot of guys hurt, a lot of young guys on that football team as well. And we just had to keep reminding guys that, hey, we can't do much about this year, but we're getting better for next year. And we ended up having a pretty decent season the following year. So I think consistency is critical. When people follow you, they want to see a model of consistency. I think, however, that the greatest trait a leader can have is humility. I think the greatest trait a leader can hold is humility. Humility is not weakness. Humility, to be humble doesn't mean that you have a loss of confidence. To be humble just means that you realize that all of the pieces make the whole team and not just you, because you're the leader or because you're the most talented. So what humility says is it invites other players and other minds to the party to be able to express their thoughts as well. That the days for the know-it-all and the superstar that doesn't acknowledge and recognize his teammates, I think that day is over. I really think so. It's poor leadership. People want good leadership nowadays, and teammates respond to good leadership better than they respond to egotistical know-it-alls. So humility is one of those traits, and to me, it's the top trait. So the best leaders are also the most humble leaders.
Trust me, I definitely have experience in that regard. I know teams I've played on before have had those egotistical know-it-alls, as you said, who think they're the best on the team. They try to do everything themselves, and that just hurts the team overall, honestly. It creates a mindset that of a negative morale for the team because they don't like the player. The player probably doesn't like the team because he thinks or they think that their teammates are not good enough for them, and it just all kind of comes together to make a team that isn't well-functioning, and that's never a good output. So also what you said about humility, I would agree. I think having both the humility and the consistency really would just make for a perfect leader, so I definitely agree with you there. Now, I would like to reflect back on before your NFL career. Thinking back and knowing what the future holds for you now and what you experienced in the NFL, what would you go back and tell your 16-year-old self?
That's a great question. At 16 years old, I was 130 pounds, 5'7". I mean, I was 130 pounds soaking wet. And I loved the NFL, and I wanted to play in the NFL, and it happened for me. But I did have those moments where I doubted it, I was uncertain, I would tell my 16-year-old self to never give up on your dream. I would remind my 16-year-old self that of all the things you have in this world that can be taken from you, no one can take your desires, your dreams, and your hopes. And to hold on to those hopes, those desires and dreams, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Because good things happen to people that keep chasing their dreams.
Well, that definitely hits me kind of hard, being 16 and an athlete myself now. So I really do thank you for that advice. I can definitely know that I'm just going to keep pushing in whatever I want to do. So thank you for that. On that note, is there anything else you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah, I want them to know how great of an interview this was and how excited I am to be online with you. So thank you again.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad you're with us.
Absolutely.
So thank you again. So is there a website where people can possibly connect with you?
Feel free to connect with me at www.terrellfletcher.com, or they can find me at the same namesake, Terrell Fletcher, on Instagram or Twitter. Follow me, like me, find me on Facebook as well. I'd love to connect with them. If anybody has more questions, they can just send them to me there. Love to chat.
All right. Well, that's awesome, Terrell. Thank you. This has been an extremely enlightening conversation, and I know so many who hear it will benefit from it, hopefully being inspired to go beyond their known limits, thrive in the unknown, and hopefully benefit society at large along the way. So, and of course, anyone who wants to connect with me, the Sports Watchdog, on Twitter can do so at Sports Watchdogs, and you can easily find me on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and elsewhere in the digital domain. So until next time, keep your eye on the ball.